Now that we've completed our study of the narrative and are moving into the argument, I wanted to touch base with you about the coming trimester. Last week you read and thought about Michael Levin's The Case for Torture. Though I chose that topic for you to consider and debate a bit on the discussion board, later in the trimester you'll be able to choose some of your own articles to respond to on matters that interest you. Before we get on to that, however, we're going to read Dickens' novel Hard Times and begin thinking about a major argumentative essay about the nature of education. I've chosen Hard Times because although Dickens' novels are great, they're usually very long, but this one happens to be of a manageable length. One of the main themes in the novel is the nature and role of education. Since you'll all be thinking a good deal about that and the next stage of your education over the next year or two, I think this is a particularly pertinent topic to consider carefully. I'll be asking you to consider, though neither of these are necessarily exclusive to the other, education from two perspectives: liberal education, or what we might call utilitarian or servile education. Historically speaking, for free classes of people from the ancient Greeks until the 1900s, formal education, like what we would study at a university or educational institution of some kind, was what we would call liberal. It was intended for the free man and was meant to free him further by opening his mind to all areas of knowledge and equipping him mentally to engage in a wide number of tasks. More recently, though, much of formal education for free citizens is of the more utilitarian kind. John Dewey, who lived from the mid-1800s to the mid-1900s, was instrumental in bringing this philosophy into play, because he believed that learning was active and schooling unnecessarily long and restrictive. His idea was that children came to school to do things and live in a community which gave them real guided experiences and fostered their capacity to contribute to society. For example, Dewey believed that students should be involved in real-life tasks and challenges, rather than spend much time reading literature, history, or things like that. Rather than pursuing knowledge for its own sake, keeping in mind Aristotle's statement in his Metaphysics that all men by nature desire to know, specialization, like what Dewey taught, has caused education to train men for particular tasks or vocations. This kind of training breeds a skilled workforce, but it doesn't allow people as much liberty to choose various professions or to move between them, and it also often fails to satisfy the true longings of man's nature that Aristotle noted. So in considering this kind of philosophy, we'll read Hard Times, which explores the effect of education from a utilitarian point of view, through a story about the lives of a group of children and their adult authorities in an industrial city called Coketown. Later, we'll read passages from John Henry Newman's The Idea of a University about liberal education, as well as a number of contemporary news articles which people have written on the same subject. Much of what I'll give you will be in defense of the liberal arts, simply because I haven't found much actually written in opposition to them, since the people who really care about them are the ones who tend to take the time to defend them. If you come across something from a different point of view, please let me know and we'll be glad to share that as well. Through all these readings, I'd like you to develop an opinion on what a college education ought to include. Then, I'll have you write an argumentative research essay, and you'll have the chance to analyze Newman, Dickens, and any other sources you like, and to critique their ideas with your own thoughts. Despite the fact that the resources I'm providing are a bit one-sided, I'm open to any point of view, so long as you can defend it well. Please be sure also that you read the Dickens novel well, since you'll need to cite it carefully in your essay. If you think of it as you go, you might want to mark key passages with a pencil that refer to education that you think you might want to use in your argument. So we'll spend 3 weeks on Dickens before we'll get into other articles and then move on to satire, letters to the editor, and other such things that have to do with argumentation.